said when we go into the darkness, the first question that comes up is where am I? And the second question that comes up is who am I?
Who am I? Yeah.
Can you speak to me more about that?
If we are living in environments where we can't see the stars at night, we haven't been taught the names of the stars, we don't know the cultures from which those names come, we don't know what motivated that kind of naming. It's kind of like experiencing a cultural amnesia, because every culture throughout the history of humanity has had a star lore, something that was fundamental to giving expression to how do we organize ourselves, what do we believe, what do we understand, what do we know about the world that we find ourselves in, and the relationship of this body that we inhabit to the celestial environment in which it finds itself. So there's a quote by Rudolf Steiner that I particularly like, which is that the more abundantly the harmony of the cosmos fills the soul, the more peace and harmony there will be on the earth. There's a harmony that can be witnessed in the celestial world that really brings peacefulness to the human soul and helps us to bring that into our environments here on the earth.
What happens when we go into the dark? According to star lore historian Mary Stewart Adams, the imagination begins to stir. The importance of imagination was emphasized by some of the greatest scientists of the century: Einstein, Sagan, Hawking. And yet, imagination, like darkness itself, is rarely recognized for its significance.
And when we find ourselves in the dark physically, something that starts to happen is that the imagination begins to stir.
Dark places are natural resources, the importance of which cannot be overstated. They are as important for viewing the cosmos as they are for viewing humanity and our relationship with the world. It is imperative that dark places are recognized and protected, not only for astronomical viewing, but for cultural, psychological, biological, environmental, ecological, and economic importance. This is a story of how the public and professionals from diverse fields are working together to acknowledge, explore, and learn about a dark place in rural Oregon and how to protect it for generations to come. The high desert of North America, nearly 500,000 square kilometers of semi-arid land, from the Wasatch Mountains in the east to the Sierra and Cascade Mountains in the west, from the Columbia Plateau in the north to the Mojave Desert in the south. This massive geological and environmental Great Basin region is home to countless natural wonders and resources. One of them is darkness. Nestled on the western edge of this enormous expanse of mountains and valleys, basins and ranges, sparse in vegetation and water, is a remote area among the darkest places on the continent.
We're very fortunate to live in an area that the dark sky is our normal that most people can't even conceive of. And here I live in a place that the Milky Way is just natural. It's my normal. We need to be able to protect the dark skies. There's a problem with encroachment, with people putting in more and more lights. Yes, we have to grow, we have to have the lights, but if we can do it right, we can still preserve our dark sky.
3 counties in eastern Oregon, Harney, Mowler, and Lake, are among the largest and least populated counties in the country. Their vast and rural character accounts for the remarkable darkness of the night sky that arcs over them. In Lake County, a population of about 8,000 spreads over an area approximately 8,000 square miles, about 1 person per square mile. In this massive county, larger than some U.S. states, there is only one stoplight. With few towns, it is dominated by federal forests, wildlife reserves, and private cattle ranches, leaving large tracts of land void of artificial light.
I've worked on the Fremont National Forest, which is part of the Fremont Wainema. The Wainema is the Western edge of it is the crest of the Cascade Mountains. There's a reason for all the trees over there. They have a lot of snow, they have a lot of rain, they don't have the clear days. On this side of the forest, on the Fremont, we have over 300 days of clear skies. That's an incredible amount of opportunity for seeing the stars. And I'm wanting to get the Fremont a designation with the International Dark Sky Association, either as a park or as a sanctuary.
The darkness of a place can be measured using an astronomical sky quality meter. This sky quality meter measures visual magnitudes of an area within an arc second squared. Here, measurements confirm these are world-class skies.
It is winter solstice, December 21st, 2019, and we're going to take a meter reading, sky quality meter. Go see how dark it is. We got 2178.
The Bortle scale classifies the quality of the night sky of specific locations for astronomical viewing. On this scale, these readings are consistent with Class 1 skies. Class 1 skies are characterized as black and excellent for astronomical viewing. Richard Berry, astrophotographer and former editor of Astronomy magazine, describes the darkness in Eastern Oregon as an incredible resource.
This was where we were last night. Okay, excellent dark sky site. And here's a map, lightpollution.org map.info. X marks the spot. Rural Oregon has an incredible resource out here.
Far outside the view of even the very best telescopes, dark places are essential for observing inwardly, for observing ourselves. Humanity's view of the cosmos does not pass through the lens of a telescope without also passing through the lens of culture. The dark is essential for examining humanity's sense of self, our biological, cultural, and personal identities. To explore the mysterious connection between humanity and the night sky, artists and scientists, along with politicians and members of the public, converged in Lake County for a special event, the Dark Sky Gathering. The Dark Sky Gathering was held at a residency for artists and scientists, aptly named for the majestic landscape on which it is established, Playa.
I'm the executive director here of Playa, residency program for artists and scientists in Summer Lake, Oregon. Oh, the Dark Sky event, we've been excited about this for, well, over a year. And we're really approaching dark skies from a lot of different angles. At Playa, we like to do that with anything that we address. And we had seen sort of a lack of coverage, if you will, about humanities in dark skies. You know, that's what Playa is about, is elevating any question through the humanities, whether it's writing or painting or, you know, oral tradition. There's an alchemy that happens here that when people come and there's this place and we're just experiencing these things that we all love so much, that we have a community moment. And that's what we're aiming for.
Playa's program manager, Chelsea Peel, recognized the special significance of the night sky over Eastern Oregon and applied her experience in social and environmental art and science to organize an event that would directly address questions about humanity, ecology, and the importance of dark places.
My goal is to create an experience that showcases many different ways to connect with the dark sky, to celebrate it. I'm bringing in an artist perspective. I'm bringing in a wildlife biology perspective. We have a star lore historian. We're seeking traditional stories through the local tribes here, even music inspired by black holes. The significance is that we have access to dark sky out here, some of the darkest lands left in the United States. It's significant to bring attention to the various stakeholders, if you will, in having darkness. We've lost really amazing stories and ways of connecting, so we're trying to relearn how to connect. I really want people to understand that there's other ways of connecting and knowing the dark sky than just science, astronomy, telescopes.
Peale's call for artists and scientists was answered. During the new moon in September 2019, the Dark Sky Gathering was attended by poets, painters, musicians, storytellers, and by experts in history, biology, and astronomy.
Culture and Heritage Director of the Klamath Tribes, he has graciously offered to provide a blessing for this space. And so without further ado, we'll have him come and do that.
A tribal council person representing Native American people of the region opened the event with a strong prayer and shared an ancestral story about the creation of the world. Like many traditional creation stories, this story began with darkness. Not far from me is one of the oldest archaeological sites on the continent, dating back to about 14,300 years ago. Since then, Native people have maintained nearly continuous occupation of this region. In more recent history, Native people here fiercely resisted colonization, culminating in warfare with United States military forces. Native culture was systematically destroyed. Along with the loss of life, information, knowledge, and wisdom was also lost, including stories about how we are related to the cosmos. Despite this, Native culture has proven resilient, and some stories remain intact, passed on through oral tradition, including one story that tells how the stars were placed in the heavens by Coyote and the bear. Different Native cultures have different ways of relating to the night sky, and it would be wrong to make generalizations. However, I can tell you about one tradition that is common among Native cultures throughout the continent, how it relates to darkness and the origins of humanity. Reverence for origination from darkness is demonstrated in behavior and in symbols associated with ceremonies of Native cultures throughout North America. Lodge ceremonies are highly complex. There are seemingly infinite variations. One thing they have in common is that they occur mainly in darkness. During these ceremonies, lodge structures are covered to prevent outside light from entering. Stones are extracted from a fire, passed through a small door, and placed in a shallow pit in the center of the lodge. The door closes, and participants inside experience nearly complete darkness, lit only by the faint red glow of the stones. In this heated state, the stones are the color of the magma from which they originated. Water poured over the stones generates a strong atmosphere of steam. No matter the variation, the conditions inside give the impression that the lodge is an emulation of the dark place from which life originated, the womb.
To me, darkness is the feminine creative power. It all comes from darkness. So darkness is the plenitude, the potential, the creative imagination.
That the universe began with darkness is common in traditional creation stories of cultures throughout the world, and it is confirmed by science. The commonality is astonishing.
We know that there is a time in the universe's past where the galaxies were the first to light up. Basically, the stars in the galaxies send out ionizing radiation, which clears out the fog of the hydrogen in the universe. And so once that hydrogen fog is cleared out, then the stars and galaxies can shine through.
In traditional and scientific creation stories, we emerged from darkness. And now, questions about who we are lead us back. What happens when we go into the dark? We dream.
Of primary importance, not the sky, but the human being, and specifically the human imagination. And by imagination, I don't mean make-believe. What I mean is imagination as a way to take a first step toward engaging the unknown. And when we find ourselves in the dark, we can be in the dark literally, or we can be in the dark emotionally, we can be in the dark intellectually. But encountering the dark is an experience that far too few of us are having regularly in a healthy way. And when we find ourselves in the dark physically, something that starts to happen is that the imagination begins to stir. And ancient cultures weren't just out in the dark looking at the sky, imagining what things looked like.
Mary Stewart Adams is an expert on historical and cultural dimensions of the relationship that humans have with the night sky. Her message contains an important insight, that the night sky is a primary source of information for humanity to learn about the universe and itself. To Adams, the emulation of the stars represents the highest achievements of humankind.
It's really important in contemporary culture that we recognize that while the discipline of astronomy is wonderful, there's also many other avenues for getting to an understanding and an experience of the night sky, and that includes literature, art, history, architecture, those things that we look back at and find in cultures and ages long before our own time. And we oftentimes will see that some of those highest achievements in those areas are coming from the human being's attempt to describe and give expression to an understanding of how we are related to starry worlds.
The importance of imagination was reiterated at the gathering in many ways. An audience listened to a creative sound piece by researcher and composer Susan Alexjander.
I recommend that we turn the lights off and we listen deeply to portals of sound and light, black holes and beyond.
In her piece, she altered frequencies recorded in space, on Earth, and in water to create a trance-inducing sonic experience, recognizing the powerful and mysterious link between sound, trance, and imagination. Alexjander designed the piece deliberately as a conduit to explore a place that might otherwise be unreachable, the darkest place in the universe, a black hole.
My whole goal as a composer is to provide a container so that people can go someplace they've never been before. The message being, I can journey there, I can create that. Oh, I've never experienced that. Translating to, I am a very creative being. I want to empower people to imagine, just to imagine. A lot of the sounds were directly from the NASA website. One of the tracks was Jupiter, which almost sounds like a choir, a beautiful angelic choir, and that's kind of in the background. There's a spinning pulsar called Vela X that was actually recorded at an astronomy lab. So one of the sounds is from a microphone being somehow inserted deeply into the earth and getting these earthly rumbles and things going on. There were whale sounds, there were human voices, which hopefully you couldn't hear, but they're in there. So I tried to bring in the entire cosmos of life to be represented in the stars. But the biggie, the one, that thing, that was gifted to me by an MIT scientist named Scott Hughes. He had taken data of two black holes circling around each other, which of course take millennium to finally come together, but he'd taken all this raw data and had it programmed into some software that came out as sound.
And I hope the stars come out tonight for you. I haven't been out there at all today, but we're going to turn on the lights, and thanks again.
Can you maybe speak a little bit about the mystery of the mechanism? How does sound cause a person to go inside of themselves?
Well, it all comes to the body first. and the body informs the brain. The body has an experience, and then it goes to the brain, and the brain says, okay, what do I make of this experience? Sometimes the brain can't quite pinpoint what it's feeling, so it'll make something up. And there you go. And then you're on your way to, total possibility.
A poem presented by Eleanor Berry expressed the joy and wonder of being under a night sky brightly lit by stars.
All the comforts of home, you and I and several hundred others, trade for dark skies and the stars as they look far from human lights. Brilliant, myriad, the stars wheeling over this sparse land, clear summer nights.
In another poem, she questioned the validity of subjective ideas and popular beliefs about celestial objects.
Every night red Mars glows in the south. Every night news of the war that was supposed to be over. News of troops shooting civilians at roadblocks, guerrillas ambushing patrols, women and men wounded, dead. No, the red planet does not preside over this. Though it bears a name humans once gave, a god conceived to reign over human wars, it sheds no influence inciting hostilities, deciding the outcomes of armed encounters. It simply shines into space. Though we call it by a name for war, our wars do not touch it. At least have not touched it yet.
Paul Allen Bennet explores humanity's connection to the night sky through painting and music.
Well, I think it's that element of beauty and awe and wonder that makes us become artists, first of all, because we're drawn to those things, and so we want to work with them. They're part of our language, whether it's poetry or music or painting. And also just that idea of getting out of your head and looking up at the night sky or just looking at the world around you, taking the time in your life to develop that interest. Suddenly it changes how you see the world. One of the key places I lived in was Greece. I lived there 6 years. I did a master's in Greek history. But I've been here in Central Oregon for 29 years now. When I first left Greece, I kind of felt like I left that world behind me. Like, I'm not going to be teaching Minoan and Mycenaean art over here. What do I do with this information? So it was almost like I don't know what to do with it. But it's only been recently that I thought, what do I mean? It's all right up above me in the night sky. And here I've been doing these paintings about the night sky because from Central Oregon, we just live in a planetarium here, All you gotta do is look up and there they all are. You don't have to go to a planetarium, they're right here. It brings all these constellations into the present. So they're not these myths that were written long ago that you learned about in your childhood. When you really study them, they're much different than maybe what you learned in your childhood because a lot of that information was left out.
So I have another poem, another Playa poem here. This is called Stations of the Wee Hours at Playa, because I woke up early and I couldn't sleep. I think it was just being so excited about being here. But so I had this sense of the stations of the late night. By long trial from its deep bin, dark learned to unfold itself out across the open. Heavy stars salt the vault, and each ranch on horizon's arc glint sparks at 10 miles, 20. From a dead pine pinnacle by owl eyes, dim snow lies tufted with feather and fur. What's there? Whisper thin but sure, pulling your fragile mammal body forth. Inclusions tug, calling you kin to frosted mud, raw reed, seed, sleep, snowfall, windwork, life, law. In your prickle coat cold, puff by puff, you step through drifted snow until you stand to listen. Silence so thick it builds a room around you, and in seams of earth a yearning for yellow dawn. Below us all, rock, a clock in no hurry, ticks toward change. Again, it's about emptiness, silence, darkness, as resources for vitality, for response, for life, the life urge.
And I want to thank you, Chelsea, wherever you are, for arranging this wonderful gathering. I wanted to have a community moment this weekend, and I really feel we're having it. There's a great thing that we have here that money can't buy, and the dark sky is part of that. And it's this wonderful, natural world that inspires so much awe, and it does change us.
It is important that artists and scientists work together to expand the story of our relationship to the cosmos.
We need to create a new myth. Today's scientific information is a story that's going to be changed. And I think the human species is moving towards a huge transformation.
The ironic message that emerged from the Dark Sky Gathering is that although we may fear becoming lost in the darkness, we are certainly lost without it. The night sky is a primary source of information for navigating the world literally and figuratively. As the world continues to lose its dark places, humanity becomes more alienated from this source of information. Did our ancient ancestors ever conceive that one day we would have to save the stars?
Ran into you in the dark. Can we have this dance together? Can we try to save the star? If you fall, I fall. If you fall, I fall. If you fall, I fall with you.
The International Dark Sky Association, IDA, is an authority on light pollution. Its stated mission is to preserve and protect the nighttime environment and our heritage of dark skies through environmentally responsible outdoor lighting. The IDA's Dark Sky Places program recognizes night sky stewardship with honorary designations. With the formation of the Oregon Outback Dark Sky Network, specialists are working with the local population to determine how a dark sky designation might apply to areas in Oregon.
I think the local population would appreciate that one of the gems of living in the Oregon Outback is being under this beautiful night sky. What can we do to protect the legacy of the dark sky out here? I think that we can bring people together, we can get them on board, and we can support local populations to keep this area dark and beautiful.
Peel, along with Bob Hackett, Associate Director of Travel Southern Oregon, are sensitive to concerns about what increased astrotourism could mean for the region. Hackett states, recognizing the existing dark sky qualities in the county is important in and of itself. One of the benefits of recognizing it is that it has the potential to serve the county economically and give energy to impulses on the ground.
When we were in Lake County with Travel Oregon doing a rural tourism studio, it was really clear there was a lot of energy in the room across the county recognizing the uniqueness of the dark sky, of starry skies in Lake County. And people might not know, but Central Idaho has set up a dark sky reserve that was recognized by the Dark Sky Association. And that community across a wide swath of Idaho came together and worked on that designation. A reserve is a very large contiguous area of dark sky that has communities around it to support educational efforts, enough people around it to really celebrate it and come visit it and support it once that designation happens.
Tourism is already a concern and an economic boon for the county. Diverse elements like wildlife, recreation areas, geological features, hot springs, and rock hounding attract travelers from all over the world. However, dark skies rarely make the proverbial list of the county's main appeals.
Economically, certainly astrotourism is very attractive. People, by definition, spend the night. Now, that can happen in any way Lake County wants it to happen. It can be, it needs to fit the community. It can't just come from outside. And along with that goes people need places to eat. If there's artists around, there's galleries, people have the opportunity. And so just by having some increased traffic in a really rural area, that always just gives the opportunity for more economic development. But it has to work. It has to work for people. And that's why any effort really would need to start within the community to have it happen. One of the potential adverse impacts is it may be a misunderstanding, it may be a miscommunication out of the gate, but some people may feel that something's going to be taken away from them, something that they've been able to do on public or private land. Ultimately, the goal would be to mitigate any future large light impacts once you designate an area, but that all can be done. It's been proven it can be done, and as long as people are communicating and there's resource to help have that happen, I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives, but that's not how everybody feels if it's on their land. So those conversations can get complicated.
The Dark Sky Gathering proved potential for astrotourism and presence of community support on the ground. Dwayne Graham is the owner and operator of Summer Lake Hot Springs Resort. With a strong history of demonstrated commitment to environmental building and design, the resort is an exemplary educational model for facilitating increased astrotourism while minimizing environmental impacts.
A long time ago, when bought the place, there was a dusk to dawn street light right out front here. Took all the stars away. So that was one of the first things I took down, just so I could see the stars more at night. And then some other things, I try all my lights, I just try to have down lights or some low voltage. Just stuff that's not blaring and glaring out at you. So stuff like that, down lights, down can lights, and just trying to be conscious of my lighting.
Increased tourism could lead to increased light pollution and adversely affect the darkness of the night sky. However, learning to mitigate this potential impact presents an additional opportunity in the form of educational tourism. Developing educational tourism together with astrotourism could generate even greater economic opportunities.
It'll bring more revenue. Lake County, Central Oregon, a big source of the revenue right now is tourism, whether it's fishing, bird watching, hot springers, campers, night sky looking people. They're more looking for nature, whole natural experience, and maybe looking up at the sky and seeing things they haven't seen in years and years if they live in the city. So I'm all for it, So I think it'll be good. To me, it'll just be in addition to what we already have going on here. There is something to be said about, too many people. So we are trying to figure out how to, just kind of control the masses. Since change is inevitable, you might as well try to direct that change as best you can and try to manage it. So things are changing. I think everyone should be as environmentally responsible as possible, just anyway. It's a pretty unique opportunity out here that there hasn't been much development to really interfere with the sky very much.
Just as a point of pride, I think it's something that Lake County is already proud of, but it would be some kind of official recognition by the rest of the world that this place is special. And there's no other place like it in Oregon, and certainly not around the West, that has these kinds of qualities.
In part 2 of this documentary series, we explore how the local economy and environment can benefit from astrotourism, and how education plays a key role in mitigating impacts of increased visitation. We take a closer look at cattle ranching and its significance in ensuring the dark sky legacy of the region. We bridge social divides in honor of our shared human heritage and relation to the dark sky.
If you're looking at the stars, it's inquisitive. You have to ask questions, whether or not you get the answers. But it just makes you think, and I think we have since the beginning of time. You look up and just wonder.